This is the solution video for the midterm for the noon class of MIS3200. First thing that you need to do is add 3 required field validators. One on the text box, one on the first radio button list, and one on the second radio button list. All 3 of those validators will have the same properties, different IDs, different control to validate, but display should be dynamic for all of them. The error message will differ slightly. The floor color needs to be set to red. Set focus on error needs to be true. And the text needs to be set to an asterisk. You also need to drop a validation summary at the bottom. Next, we're going to create the auto postback method for this radio button list. When you test the page, you should notice that this label and this list box appear when the user selects yes, and they disappear when the user selects no. So we'll click the Smart Menu button for the radio button list choice. We'll check this right here to enable auto postback, and then we'll double click it. That'll create our selected index change method for RBL choice. First thing I'm going to do, however, is set focus on TXT main in the page load method. Then, in our selected index changed method, if the user selects yes, we want to make that label visible, and we also want to make the list box visible. Otherwise, we're going to hide that label. We're going to hide that list box, and we're going to clear any selections from the list box. Next, we come back here and we'll double click our submit button, because now we're ready to create our output label. So we'll want to declare 2 variables first. The first variable is going to hold the food total from the list box selections, and the second variable is going to hold the drink total, which is coming from the radio button list selection. Then, you should have noticed when testing your page that if the user selects yes, but no selections are made from LB food, that the label pops up and tells them that they need to select something for food, if they do indeed want food. Otherwise, our output label is created as normal. So we'll make the first 2 lines of our output label. Don't forget your page breaks here for the label accumulation. Then we'll create an if statement to test whether or not the user selected food. If the user selected food, we want to calculate that total by using a for loop. But what we'll do is we'll create the line for the food first. So your food will be ready in 20 minutes. Again, notice the plus equals, we're accumulating that label. And of course the page break at the end. Then we'll do the for loop. And that for loop will loop through each one of these items in the list box. And what we're going to do is we're going to say if the user selected it, then accumulate, notice the plus equals, accumulate that number of the value of the selected item into deck food total. That's all we need to do in that for loop. So then we can go ahead and we can create the rest of our label here. Be sure that you're formatting your decimals to string in currency format. Notice the C2 there. Now, if the user selected food, that would mean that deck food total should be greater than 0. In other words, they owe some money for food selections. And so we'll input that line into the label and tell them their total for food. And then we'll put another variable of type decimal to calculate the total. That's food total plus drink total. We'll output that grand total there in our label. Again, formatting to string currency. We'll make the output label true. And then we'll do our cleanup. We're going to set the text box equal to nothing. We're going to reset that RBL by setting the selected index equal to -1. Same thing for the second RBL. Same thing for the list box. We're going to make sure that that LBL choice is not visible. We're going to make sure that the list box is also not visible. Got a comment there just to make sure I know I did all my cleanup. I'll come back up here. I'll add page level comments here. So I've got my page level and method level comments. I've got my validators, and my site should run properly. Have a good night.